Ladies and gentlemen, we finally did it. We finally found one of the best mangas there is. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, in the vast world of mangas and light novels, existed a story of weird and quite honestly very interesting proportions. This story emerged from the minds of an author named Hee Sung-nam and an illustrator by the name of Tae Hyun Kim. They created an amazing piece of work and named it the legendary Moonlight Sculpture. This manga is as thrilling as it is captivating, and trust me, I'll prove my point. This manga has everything in it, from a journey through the realms of adventure and strategy to a whole lot of sculpting. Sculpting you say? This can't be right. How has sculpting ever been entertaining in mangas? Well yes, I know. Sculpting doesn't sound so fun in mangas, but let me put my honesty hat for a second and tell you why what you just said is nonsense, and is the reason why you keep shitting on the state of mangas today. When you've read enough mangas, especially shonens, you realize quite early that most of them are essentially the same. It's the same kind of characters, with the same storylines, and the same morale. So after years of reading, you kind of feel the need to read something different. Anything, as long as it is refreshing and talks about something that you're not used to reading. This manga is exactly it, but even better. As I was saying, this manga has a lot in it. It has adventure, a good plot, a very original skill system, and a crafty and original main character. So before we continue any further, pull a comfy chair and grab some popcorn, but not too much, or you'll spend a week cleaning your teeth. It's time for us to dive into the legendary tale of the legendary Moonlight Sculpture. The story revolves around Lee Hyun, a college student who finds himself in a dire financial situation. Not only is he in debt because of school, but his mother is also dying and hospitalized, so he has to take care of his sister and all the hospital bills all by himself. Apparently this part of the story is based on the American health system, because all the bills are unbelievably expensive. This isn't what you would call a unique scenario, but not everyone take the same route to remedy their problems, and the one Lee Hyun took is quite interesting. In a desperate attempt to make some quick cash, our protagonist decides to sell his in-game character in a popular isekai MMORPG named Continent of Magic. If you've ever played an MMO, you probably know how heart-wrenching it can be to part with a character you've painstakingly leveled up. It's like raising a baby you took care of for years just to watch someone else play football with him instead of you when he grows up. Damn, that was oddly specific. Whatever, you guys know what I mean. It's a hard thing to do, and you would need to be in a very dire situation to do something this crazy. But we're getting out of track here. Little did he know, Lee Hyun's virtual creation, who goes by the IGN Weed, yes, Weed, I know, held more potential than he could ever imagine. He probably thought that it'd just be another sword-wielding adventure in a sea of countless others. After all, who would have guessed that his passion for sculpting would be the key to unlocking a path to fame and fortune in a virtual world, right? He decides to keep his character and instead of selling it, get isekai'd back into the game and use his character to farm as many things in the game as possible so that he could later sell them for real money. But where to start? Well, with his sculpting skills as his main forte, Weed embarks on a journey that includes more than just monster hunting, crafting, and conquering dungeons. He begins to sculpt not just for the sake of earning a few extra gold coins, but as a mean to unravel the mysteries of his character's skill path. Each statue he crafts tells a story, and with every story comes a piece of history that adds depth to the world. Through his artistry, he inadvertently becomes an archaeologist, historian, and an artist all rolled into one. All this knowledge helps him know more about the world he plays in. He uses that information to find ways to abuse the system and make the most out of situations he stumbles upon. As the adventure unfolds, our hero begins to earn more and more gold and experience points. He even accumulates something even more valuable, a reputation as the legendary sculptor. His sculptures take on a life of their own, and every time someone lands an eye on his work, they are enchanted and can see their own emotions reflected on his work. In a world where dragons and epic quests are the norm, Weed's real power lies in his ability to sculpt statues that have a certain enchantment to them. His works aren't just inanimate objects, they are pieces of his soul, his dreams, and his unique perspective on the world. He can turn lifeless pieces of rock into a symbol of hope, a tribute to fallen heroes, or a source of inspiration for generations to come. It's as if he possesses a magic wand that brings joy, solace, and inspiration to all those who behold his creations. So while other adventurers may be out there slaying dragons or searching for legendary artifacts, Weed is quietly shaping the world in his own way, proving that sometimes it's not the sword that's mightier, but the chisel and hammer that carves a path to greatness. Yeah, I know that sounds quirky, but it doesn't make it any less true. The idea of having to be the edgy main character with a special quirk has been overused over the years. Stories don't need to be like this, especially animes and mangas. This is why this manga feels so refreshing. It doesn't try to fit in a box, it just does its thing and it's great at it. Another intriguing aspect of the legendary Moonlight Sculpture is the balance between realism and fantasy. The story dwells into the consequences of Weed's actions, both positive and negative, and that's where the plot gets spicier than your Indian corner joint. You see, in video games, there are no participation trophies. When you loot, pillage, and exploit, the world isn't going to throw you a parade or serve you with a cake. Instead, it has a way of keeping score, and every action has a reaction. Much like in real life, but with more goblins and pay to win. Wait, I think one of the two exists IRL. Characters in the legendary Moonlight Sculpture have to face the repercussions of their choices. And sometimes, those repercussions are as unpredictable as the magic potion brewed by Mash Burndead. Yeah, it can be that bad. Weed isn't just a one-dimensional hero, tirelessly slaying monsters and amassing riches. He's a character who experiences the highs and the lows of his virtual existence. His decisions, whether noble or self-serving, come back to haunt him or reward him in unexpected ways. It's almost like watching a high-stakes game of chess, where each move has consequences and there's no reset button. And let's face it, who doesn't enjoy watching characters struggle with their decisions? It adds depth to the narrative, making you wonder if you'd make the same choices if you were in their shoes, or in this case, their armor. The touch of realism that the story introduces reminds us that even in the fantastical world of MMORPGs, the human element remains a constant. It's a reminder that actions have consequences, and while you might find solace in a beautifully sculpted piece of art, or the thrill of a successful dungeon raid, you can't escape the responsibility of your choices. So, in a way, the manga becomes a mirror, reflecting our own world, where each step we take shapes the destiny of our account or character, for better or worse. And of course, you can't forget the lively cast of characters who accompany Weed on his journey. Without his consent, some very endearing characters decide to follow him on his path. He really doesn't care at first, as his main objective is to free himself from his financial obligations. I won't go into much details as not to spoil you guys, and all I will say is that they are all equally awkward in their own way. And they also bring some diversity to the story, which really feels refreshing. So guys, I hope I managed to convince you to pick up the legendary Moonlight Sculpture, as it is a must-read for any manga enthusiast looking for something out of the ordinary. It's a story that reminds us that even in the most unexpected themes, some ideas can be very entertaining to read. So, pick up your virtual sword and sculpting tools and join Weed on his unforgettable quest for gold and glory. Hey, who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to pick up sculpting as a side hustle. That was all for me today guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, keep smiling and see you on the next one.